Well, hello, and welcome to a very, very special edition of my journey through the Pantheos. I am your host, Andrew, aka Journeyman, and today we are going to be talking about the absolutely epically badass subject matter that is astral projection. So strap in, it is going to be a wild ride. Okay, so there's a lot to cover here. A lot has happened in the year and a half since the last time that I posted anything about astral projection. So if you recall from the first video about my first experience of astral projection, that experience happened right here on this couch about a year and a half ago. After about, 2 months or so of failed attempts at the gateway process, I personally believe that some people are just more naturally gifted at meditation than others, and they're able to achieve success with the gateway process a lot more than others. I happen to suck at meditation, never really been good at it. But there was this one time, even though I had given up on the gateway process, I'd looked on YouTube and other sources to find more fundamental ways, going back to the very basics of astral projection on how to achieve it. And I found something called the direct method, where you lay down and basically pretend to go to sleep, and you meditate yourself into such a deep relaxation that your body thinks it's asleep and your mind stays awake. And whenever that happens, if you play your cards right, if you thread the needle properly, you can hit all the different precursors of an astral projection experience. And if you're able to stay relaxed and stay collected and focus, you will be able to pop out of your body. Much like I did on that first experience that I made a video about, the link is here by the way, where I was laying here and I entered into this celestial tunnel and stuff like that, had all these amazing hypnagogic visions of faces and stuff like that, and I was able to barrel roll out of my body and land in my garage right at the exact time when my wife was coming home from work, and I saw the garage door open and I saw her Jeep pull over top of me, all while my actual real physical body was still laying on the couch, which is right above me, right there. In the weeks and months that followed, I tried that indirect approach several times to no avail to try to replicate and expand upon that experience. It just didn't quite really work for me. I'm not really good at meditation. And it was after giving up on the direct method when I discovered a new system, which was new to me anyways, called the indirect method, which was much, much easier in the sense that instead of pretending to go to sleep and meditating yourself into the astral projection experience, you instead legitimately just go to sleep. I don't know about you, but I can hit that state of relaxation, like legitimate sleep, anytime I want. I'm so good at sleep, I could fall asleep standing on one toe in the middle of rush hour traffic, okay? It is so much easier of a method, right? But there is a little trick to pulling it off. And that trick is to interrupt your sleep. Okay, so you got to sleep about 2/3 of your usual night's sleep, right? And what you do is you set an alarm that interrupts the last third of your sleep. You wake up, you walk around, you do some kind of activity, maybe you get something out of the fridge, have a little late night snack or something, catch up on YouTube or Facebook or something. But the idea is to wake yourself up, but not entirely to where you're fully awake. You want to be kind of in this in-between kind of state, so that when you go to sleep, because that's what you're about to do, when you go to sleep, you can easily wake up into the hypnagogic state. The hypnagogic state is the first of these precursors to an astral projection experience, and it's honestly one of the most profound. Now, I'm not going to go into extreme details here because there's so much literature out there, so many videos about the hypnagogic state. Real quick, I'm actually going to be releasing a whole video separately about the hypnagogic state and my unbelievably amazing and heartbreakingly beautiful experiences in the hypnagogic state. And when that's ready, I'll post the link here. It's such a fascinating thing. I mean, the likes of Thomas Edison actually rigged up this elaborate way that he would keep himself in the hypnagogic state, because he would get a lot of his ideas and visions and insights for his scientific discoveries and experiments in the hypnagogic state. It's very similar to a psychedelic experience, albeit a muted experience. Like the visuals are similar, but they're darker in terms of like brightness. It's very dark and staticky, and it's not as vivid as a psychedelic experience, but very similar. And it's recognizing and being comfortable in this experience where you can focus your energy and launch into the next stage of, you know, an out-of-body astral projection experience. And that would be the vibrational state. Now, it's called the vibrational state because you actually experience vibrations. They can be very extreme, like you're being electrocuted, so very violent, or they can be, you know, somewhat pleasant, like a tingling sensation, or even warmth, you know, because what is warmth than a high frequency of vibration? And accompanied with these vibrations is sound. You typically hear a staticky kind of sound, like a buzzing sound. You can also hear like hissing and popping. But regardless of how you experience it, what you're experiencing is called astral energy, and it's the harnessing and focusing of this energy which allows you to pop out of your body, which is exactly what happened to me right here in this bed about a year ago. So what you're about to see is a reenactment of how it went down, okay? Using my best skills and abilities in Final Cut Pro with the different effects, I was able to very closely mimic what it looked like and what it felt like. And real quick, you know, during the course of this reenactment, you're going to hear me use phrases like the sinking method and the brute force method, okay? These are tactics that I use and employ to kind of draw in astral energy, harness it, focus it, and then ultimately to separate from my body, right? Describing these techniques in the detail that I usually like to describe them will really bog down this episode and take too long. So I'm going to be making a separate video where I describe all of these techniques in very specific detail, like I'm going to be busting out like charts and graphs and stuff like that. And of course, when that video is ready, I'll be posting the link here so you can check it out. Really cool stuff. But anyway, back to the experience. After waking up and goofing around for about 20 minutes to kind of wake myself up, I went back to bed. And so I laid back down on my side like this, facing the window. This is what it looked like for me. And I closed my eyes and, you know, I really tried to hit that hypnagogic state, right in between sleep and consciousness. And because I had done the indirect method and I was already kind of in that in-between state already, it was easy for me to kind of drift into that state. And so that's what happened. I was in the hypnagogic state pretty quickly, and I saw the typical kaleidoscope pattern and stuff like that in the flashes of light. So I knew if I played my cards right here, I could potentially have an astral experience. So I felt around, you know, for astral energy. I tried to see if I could detect any kind of tingling. I felt the tiniest bit, right? And when I became aware of that tingling sensation, all of a sudden it was as if I woke up. But I noticed that my vision looked a little different. It was a little bit more blue, a little bit more sharp, looked kind of neon, and I still saw some flashes and everything. So I knew I had not woken up. I was essentially looking at the room through my astral eyes. Now that energy, that tingly sensation that was the astral energy, it was still there. I could hear like some hissing and some static as well. And I knew if I was able to successfully draw in and focus and harness that energy, that the next step, of course, would be to pop out of my body. And so that's what I did. I employed what I call the sinking method to pull in the energy, hold on to it essentially, let it kind of become me. And then when it's there, don't freak out, you know, because you're going to be shaking and vibrating and the noise will be much louder and stuff. So it's really hard to concentrate and meditate in that state. But I was able to. And the energy built to a crescendo, to an apex. And when that happened, I was able to pop out of my body by what I call the brute force method. And the intensity of that, y'all, sent me launching. And I had no idea what happened. I just launched somewhere. Next thing you know, I saw this like pattern that was directly in front of my face. Didn't know what the heck was going on. But here's ultimately what happened. So I'm laying there, the energy's building and building to a critical mass, okay, an apex. And when it does, I use the brute force method to forcefully pop myself out of my body. And I went instantly from here to there. I shot into my curtains. But I had no idea that I was stuck in my curtains because it happened so instantly and violently. And I was just stuck there like this for maybe about 10 or 15 seconds before I realized, oh, I'm stuck in my curtain. And so when I realized that, I realized where I realized that I was truly outside of my body, I tried my best to pull away from the curtain and kind of navigate around. Like I wanted to turn around and see myself laying there or my wife laying beside me. But no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pull away from the curtain. I was stuck. And the rest, as they say, is history. I woke up shortly after that because of that intensity and the exertion of trying to separate from the curtain and navigate the room. It was too much stimulation, and the excitement of that woke me up. And so that was it. Pretty dang cool if you ask me. And so even though I was bummed that I couldn't navigate and couldn't go visit, I mean, again, I have these dreams of going in, back in time and going to see the dinosaurs, or, going to watch Bach play on an organ back in the 1700s in Germany or something like that. All these cool things I have in my mind, y'all. But, you got to start with the basics, which is navigating your own bedroom. And so even though I wasn't able to do that, this was the most intense, experience of leaving my body. Like, there was no, ifs, ands, or buts on if I did achieve separation or not. I got launched, and I got launched hard, and so hard that I couldn't control it. And so to me, it was still a success. However, that success does come with a grain of salt, and it's a quite damning grain of salt, unfortunately. And that is that the pattern in the curtain that I saw, that was, a centimeter away from my face, like this close, to my face when I was having the experience, it didn't actually match the pattern in real life. The pattern that I saw in my astral experience actually looked something like this. Not like this, okay? And so this is a major bummer. This is a major punch to the stomach, honestly, because here's something that's tangible, something that is objectively real and true that other people can see. And we can cross-check this and validate the astral projection experience. It's like, did you see the same thing that I saw? And clearly right here, the answer is no. This is a big bummer.
This is a bummer, man. That's a bummer.
But here's the deal, y'all. Number one, at least I had the balls to admit that discrepancy. I mean, I could have just as easily made this whole video never telling you about that and lying to you, right? But I pointed it out because this is a very important thing for us all to consider and discuss, right? But number two, let's don't throw the baby out with the bathwater here, okay? Just because a detail like a pattern in a curtain didn't quite match reality doesn't mean that the entire astral projection experience is therefore invalid, okay? There's actually a very interesting and unbelievably philosophically deep and rich theory about how everything reconciles.
The astral plane is it's like a copy of this existence. It's almost like the sandbox environment, if you were talking about this in if we were
software developers.
Yeah, software developers. Like, hey, here's your testing environment, here's your sandbox environment.
I actually recorded basically half a podcast episode, an interview with my longtime collaborator, where we talked about this theory in great detail.
It's just a whole other program that that your brain needs to pattern.
Y'all, it's absolutely epic. It's worth its own episode. We don't have time to put it into this one, but definitely put a mental bookmark. You're going to want to check that out. And when I do post it, I'll put the link of it up here somewhere.
Like, what's more important, the pattern or the curtain? To me, it's probably more important that the curtain is the curtain at this point in my development of understanding and deciphering the astral plane.
And so, again, even though I couldn't explore my surroundings, I still viewed the experience as a huge milestone, okay? It was the most energy I've ever worked with. I was able to pull in that energy using the sinking method. And then once that energy built to a crescendo, I used the brute force method to pop out of my body. So this was a huge win, and I was so excited to try, all of this on my next experience. Okay. So now it's time for the main attraction, okay, the biggest and most thrilling experience that I've had to date, the whole reason why I've made this video in the first place, and that is to, talk about an experience that I had here on this couch about 2.5 months ago. So I don't always sleep on this couch, right? I only do in rare occasions, like if my wife's out of town and I'm watching TV and I happen to fall asleep, I'll just go ahead and commit to it and sleep here, right? It's a very comfortable couch. But also, and I hate to out her here and air dirty laundry, but on very rare occasion, my wife does snore. And again, it's like once or twice a month max. But if I'm awake while she's snoring, I can't go to sleep. There's something about a repetitive, like cyclical sound pattern that will just keep my mind just like, I can't go to sleep. And so when that happens, I'll come out here and lay down on this couch and, sleep here. So that's what I did. I took the cushions off of the couch, I put them there, and I laid down to go to sleep, just like you would see here. And so from my point of view, I'm kind of seeing this, just like you're seeing right here. And of course it was dark out, so we're gonna put a little filter, So it was dark, I'm asleep kind of thing. I had this really intense dream, kind of a nightmare kind of situation, right? And I remember, being so frazzled and so shocked by what happened in this really intense dream that I woke up into the hypnagogic state. It was very clear for me that I did so. I was very conscious of it. I clearly saw the kaleidoscope, effect. I saw flashes of light and like these little bursts of geometry and stuff like that. It was very clear where I was. I knew that if I played my cards right and threaded the needle, that I could potentially have an astral experience. And I don't know, there was something about the intensity of coming out of that dream that, I don't know, may have fueled the fire, right? And so me just getting comfortable and getting focused within the hypnagogic state, very soon I was able to kind of plow through that into the looking through my astral eyes, pre-vibrational state kind of energy, right? And I knew that I was, not looking with my real eyes because, again, the room was more blue in color. It seemed sharper. There was a little bit of a trailing effect almost. And then also there was just this neon quality to it, right? I knew that I was in the pre-vibrational state. I knew then that that's when I need to kind of feel around for energy. So I felt around for astral energy. I felt a little bit. I deployed the sinking method and pulled it in like really, really good. Like I really sunk the hook big time. Really the most energy that I've ever been able to pull in all of my astral experiences. So I sunk that hook. The lead blanket hit me, the heaviest it ever hit me. It's like a wave that just was like, whoa, like totally washed over me. And so I knew I was in deep into the vibratory state. I was about to try the brute force method at that point, but before I could even try it, for some reason I had built up so much energy, I didn't even need to try it. I just flew out of my body. And I kind of hovered for a second where I was. Usually I go flying uncontrollably, but for some reason this time I stopped and I was hovering there for a little bit. Now I was still kind of almost like in low gravity, almost like how you see people on the moon when they were, jumping around, like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, how they would kind of bound across the moon and the gravity was like much less. It felt like that because when I was floating there, I felt myself kind of slowly drifting down and, succumbing to gravity. And I remember I kind of floated maybe a little bit over the coffee table in a kind of arc. And I landed, slowly, but I landed face first on the rug. And the most bizarre thing was that when I landed, I saw this splash of blue energy. It was like someone dropping a pebble into a pond and seeing those ripples propagate outward. And I remember the blue waves of this energy kind of splashed onto the coffee table and then over onto that footlocker looking thing over there, and then my guitar. And I was like, you know, that's very strange. And I also remember very distinctly feeling with my astral hands, right, being able to feel the rug underneath me. It was very detailed, and I'll never forget it. It was more real than if I were to, yeah, I'm going to feel it right now. It was just as real, if not more real, than how I just felt the rug just then. And so at this point, there's absolutely no doubt what's going on. I mean, I already knew it was an astral experience, but it's feeling the rug and seeing that the pattern was the correct pattern, and seeing that the pillows were in the correct place that I remember putting them, and all this stuff. I was like, okay, I'm out of my body for real. And I noticed again that I had a bit of control. And so I gathered my strength, I gathered my energy, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna float up and turn around. And so I did. I kind of floated up, and again, it was very slow, like you're in low gravity. And it was almost what I would imagine, you know, piloting a Zeppelin or a blimp would be like. You know, it's just this big lumbering thing that if you try to turn in one direction, it's gonna take a long time, because it's basically a bag of air suspended in air, so it's gonna really be slow. That's what it was like. And I kind of pivoted and I turned around, and I wanted to go visit my wife. You know, she's in the bedroom. So I was like, I'm gonna navigate over there and just see if I can like go see her, right? And so as I'm like rounding where this sideboard is here, like I'm rounding the corner right over there, I thought to myself, well, I need to go faster. I'm going very slow. And for some reason, I don't know why I thought this would help, I started doggy paddling. And so I'm doggy paddling very frantically, and I noticed something bizarre. When I doggy paddled, it's almost as if I pulled back from the experience. Like it's like my consciousness and my field of view kind of shrank, and it almost started looking like I was looking at the experience through a TV screen, or like a little camera monitor or something like that. And it's very strange, because it only did that when I doggy paddled. When I started to feel like I was going to lose the experience, and so I stopped doggy paddling, and it kind of like rebounded, and that screen effect disappeared. But at this point I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to try that again. Let me just try with my mind to navigate over to the bedroom. And so I did that. It was very wobbly and wonky and all that stuff, and I started approaching the door. And this is where it got too exciting for me to take, because I'm approaching a barrier. I've never tried to traverse a barrier, you know, a physical barrier in an astral experience before. I mean, heck, this is the first time I've ever been able to navigate at all. I've heard these stories about people being able to just dissolve and materialize themselves through doors. And so as I'm approaching the door, I'm getting very excited about this prospect. I'm very excited to see my wife. Who knows what's going to happen there? You know, can I validate, you know, something like, hey, you were sleeping on your left side and I saw you, and your little eye mask was off, and maybe we can validate this, and I can, you know, get more of a validation that I was really astral projecting. And so all this excitement's going through my head. I'm approaching the door. It's go time. And I got so excited that I woke up. And that was really the end of that astral experience. You know, from start to finish, the whole thing lasted probably a solid, I want to say like a minute or a minute and a half. 2 minutes is probably pushing it, but it's somewhere around there, minute and a half. Longest I've ever been outside of my body. It was really amazing. I got to navigate, you know, again, it's not like I went and zipped off around the solar system or saw the dinosaurs like I've always. If I can do that, y'all, you better believe I'm going to do that, and I'm going to come back and report it. So it wasn't a whiz-bang amazing experience like that, but to me it was, because this was a milestone. I was able to navigate and keep my cool for a minute and a half. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people have these experiences and they last for hours. But to me, like I said, I suck so much at meditation. Keeping this experience going for a minute and a half was a huge victory, and it was an amazing experience, and I can't wait to do it again. Alright, so my lady's watching Game of Thrones here, so it's going to be a lot of rumbling in the background when I film this next part. But I just wanted to kind of bring all of this together. You know, like if we're putting the pieces of this astral puzzle together, how does it all make sense, right? Well, let me show you. Okay, so the big question, what is astral energy? For me to answer that question, y'all, I gotta first tell you what it's not, okay, or at least what I think it's not, okay, because no one really knows what's going on, not only with astral energy, y'all, forget astral energy, okay, just energy in general, regular energy in our regular universe that we're so familiar with. Science doesn't even have a great explanation of what that is. If you go look it up in a science book or whatever, a physics book, you'll get a definition that says something silly like the ability to perform work. That's what energy is. And if you try to press a scientist harder on this to give you something more tangible, they're going to give you a self-referencing feedback, a paradoxical answer like energy is the universe and the universe is energy. It's like, can we do better than this, y'all? And so if we can't answer what regular energy is, what hopes do we think we have of answering this magical energy that seems to transcend this universe and exists in a dimension beyond and all this? Like, well, what hope do we have, y'all? Well, I think that there is decent enough hope in the sense that, y'all, if the as above, so below principle applies here, which it seems to apply with everything in existence and beyond, then everything in existence, y'all, and we know this to be true in our physical universe, everything is a wave and everything has a frequency. Okay, so to me, this bottom part here, this is my understanding of what astral energy could be. Okay, this top part that I've labeled science, even though it's not real science because science doesn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, okay? Their guardrails are so narrow on this, y'all. It's almost as if like even like doing experimentation on this would, you know, kind of admit that mysticism, mystical stuff may be real. So they're like, oh no, hands off. Let's just throw out something to dismiss this really quick and move on. Like, you don't want to waste your career trying to pursue this, right? You'll be laughed out of every major university in existence, right? So science can, the best that they can do here is issue hypotheses, okay? Not even theories, okay? Because theories are backed up by experiments, and then you refine stuff and yada, yada, yada. These are just hypotheses, okay? So what science has said, right, based on my research, and yes, I used ChatGPT as a little bit of a cheat, here to try to find like as much as I could. But the best guess that science will give you is that astral energy is not real at all, okay? We're just misinterpreting it as hypersensitivity to stimuli in the hypnagogic state, okay? And so basically the theory goes like this, okay? Or the hypothesis, rather, goes like this. So, and by the way, there's no way to prove what I'm about to say here, okay? But from a hunter-gatherer, evolutionary biology kind of sense of the word, okay? When you're going to sleep, as you're falling asleep, and then when you are actually asleep, you're extremely vulnerable to injury or death. Like a friggin' predator can come in and have their way with you, while you're sitting there just comatose, okay? So it behooves you to have evolved some kind of a survival mechanism that will plop you straight into the fight or flight mode at the drop of a hat, okay? And that's why we are extremely hypersensitive as we're falling asleep, as we're entering into the hypnagogic state, to either internal or external stimuli. And so they say that that's what's going on here, that the energy is not real at all. We just have this amplification of regular stuff going on. And the regular stuff that they say is going on is brainwave transitions, okay? So your brain is cycling while you're sleeping in between different brainwave states, okay? You got, you're transitioning from delta to theta, and then from theta to gamma and all this stuff. And in the transitional period there, when it's going from one brainwave pattern to the other, there's an interference, okay? And that interference we feel as vibration, and we hear hissing and popping, and then there's some synesthesia involved here, right? So that's probably the explanation as to why we see bright flashes of light and everything. So that's what they say is going on. It's not really this magical energy, okay? Likewise, another explanation of this, y'all, is that we're just, hearing amplified bodily functions, okay? The regular physiology of your body as it's sitting there laying down and breathing and blood is rushing through your veins and all this other stuff. We can actually hear all of this, and it's very highly amplified, okay? And because of this overlap of maybe some synesthesia going on, we also feel this as vibrations, and we see it as bright flashes of light. That's kind of their explanation of what's going on. But y'all, I call BS. And the reason I do is because if I'm so hypersensitive to sound and stuff and blood, going through my body and all this stuff, y'all, they even talk about like if your like eyeballs are moving around a little bit, that it'll sound like sandpaper on concrete or something. It's like, what? Y'all, if I can hear all of that, all those little details like blood going through my capillaries, why in the effing F can I not hear my own heartbeat? Y'all, it should be, because it's the loudest organ in the body. It should be a thunderous, like friggin' atomic bomb, like boom, like repetitively. So it'd be like, it's like, no, I haven't once even heard the faintest heartbeat, y'all. Why? How is that possible if everything is so heightened right here? I call BS on this. To me, what is way more plausible, okay, what makes actual scientific sense, again, even though science won't touch this with a 10-foot pole, all roads lead back to waves and frequencies, okay? Everything in existence, including existence itself, y'all. The universe itself has its own frequency, okay? But everything in it has a separate frequency, and it all aggregates up and cancels out and forms this overall resonant frequency for the whole universe. But make no mistake about it, everything in the universe, subatomic particles, which constitute every single thing in existence, y'all, have their own frequency. This is well known. Go look up wave-particle duality. Everything is a freaking wave. Here's an electron, and it has a wave. It has a frequency, okay? Then you have accumulations of subatomic particles in the form of atoms and molecules, and they all separately, each one of those subatomic particles have their own frequency. Each one of those atoms have their own frequency. And so here we have 3 different atoms here that make up this molecule, and they all have their own frequency. But together, combined, they cancel out and blah, 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 and they form an interference that has its own resonance, its own frequency. And so this entire molecule now has a frequency, right? has a wave. And then of course we have accumulations of these molecules in the form of these tangible real life objects that we can see, right? In the form, in this case, of a wine glass, right? This wine glass is made up of molecules that have their own frequencies right here, and then the accumulation of them form a overall resonant frequency, y'all. And if you don't think that a wine glass has a resonant frequency, then go grab a wine glass and thump the thing. You're going to hear a note, you're going to hear a tone. And while that tone is ringing out, go ahead and grab the glass and stop it from ringing. Now get your mouth and try to mimic that tone up against the glass. And then you will hear the glass actually come back to life and ring out and reverberate with the note that you're hitting. Congratulations, you have just found the resonant frequency of that wine glass. Okay, so now taking this analogy to the next level, okay, we just found out about resonant frequencies of stuff, okay, so we all know here that this wine glass, so this is a room, okay, and in this room we have a wine glass, a table, and a person. And we just covered that this wine glass we know has a resonant frequency, okay, but what we don't think about, even though we should because I just kind of went over it, is stuff like this table has its own resonant frequency, okay? You wouldn't imagine that. A person here has his or her own resonant frequency. But the thing that's the most peculiar, y'all, is this entire room itself has its own resonant frequency. And if you don't believe me, y'all, the next time you're in your shower, like humming your favorite song, pay very close attention to the notes that you're hitting and what happens in the room. Because when I do that, y'all, in my shower, I hit the resonant frequency of the entire bathroom and it rings out like a bell. And here's an actual example of it happening in the moment. Okay, yes, I'm recording myself in the shower right now, but it's to prove a point that there is a resonant frequency in my restroom, and I just heard it, right? So I'm going to try to hum it, and I'm going to go from a low note to a high note, gradually going upward, and you'll hear a point where it just like gets piercing, and that's the resonant frequency, okay? So here we go. Well, I guess that one kind of, but not as much as. I'm barely trying on that, and it's really resonating. And so here I was humming my song, right? Let's say that the first note is kind of like this, doesn't quite match that frequency. But then I hum my second note, and it's kind of like this. Now it's a little bit closer to that frequency. Maybe I feel a tiny little buzz, maybe a tiny little tingle or something like that, because we're getting closer to the resonant frequency of the room. But then the third note I hit is like this. And voila, we've hit the exact wave pattern. You know, I didn't quite line it up perfectly, but this now equals this, right? And the whole room starts to ring like a bell. And so that's what I think is going on here with this whole astral projection thing. It's like the restroom represents the astral plane. In this case, the blue square represents the astral plane as a whole. And it has its own resonant frequency. And we're trying to hit the astral resonant frequency, which is this red wavy line here. You come in and you start humming your song, right? Which is meditation, right? And so here you are, trying to meditate, trying to astral project. So your brain waves are trying to hit the right frequency that matches the resonant frequency of the astral plane, okay, the restroom. And your brain waves start off, something like this, right? So we're not anywhere close to meeting the resonant frequency here. So you don't really feel anything at all. But the more we meditate, the longer these wavelengths get. And now we're getting a little bit closer, as you can see here. This kind of matches, right? So as the wavelength gets longer, we start to pick up on these little traces, like these little tingly sensations. And maybe we hear a little bit of static. Maybe we see a little bit of a flash of light here and there kind of thing. So we can feel it and it's getting closer. Then you can employ whatever tactics you need to employ to go deeper into this state. But eventually you hit the resonant frequency. You hum the right note, you merge with it, and it creates this resonance, like this intensity, and that's the energy. And when that happens, you essentially become the energy, and the energy becomes you. The energy is in both places. Like the astral plane has energy, and you have energy, and your energies need to connect. And when that happens, it rings like a freaking bell. And it forms this confluence that becomes undeniably energy. And that is the astral energy, the hissing and popping and the shaking and all that stuff that we experience. But the energy is everywhere. It's just that it gets amplified in that moment and acts as like a lubricant, if you will, to pop into the the refined frequency of the astral plane. Our energy and its energy kind of combines to form this amazing confluence. And so in conclusion here, what can I say other than just, this is just the coolest thing ever, y'all, especially considering not too long ago, I didn't even think astral projection was a real thing, okay? Yet here I am, having sucked at meditation every time that I've tried it, yet I am still able to pop out of my body and have astral projection experiences. It's actually not that hard, y'all. If I can freaking do it, you can freaking do it, okay? And, that being said, my experiences aren't very advanced. Like, I'm not zipping around the cosmos and everything. I'm not doing stuff like you'll find in these books here. Like, this is a really good book on the subject if you're more scientifically minded, called Explorations in Consciousness. Really good stuff. And then, of course, we have The Godfather here, Robert Monroe. This book right here, y'all, is freaking mind-blowing. Like, wow, okay? So I'm not quite advanced yet, but y'all, I'm working on it, and dang it, I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to report what I analyze, okay? And by the way, if you guys have had different accounts, different experiences, or even different techniques or whatever, feel free, please, to comment. I want to hear your story, and who knows, maybe I'll interview you for a future episode or something. So like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, y'all. I love you all. On to the bloopers. Yes, I'm sick. I'm actually going to show you my resonant frequency for my bathroom right now. I'm joking. Patterns in your brain, and those can be oh, shit. I'm recording.
I know, but why'd you say shit?
Because I'm recording. It's okay. I'm literally recording right now.
Okay. Oh. Thanks.
Between you and the leaf blowers. It sounds like a song name. Between you and the leaf blowers. Another thing that makes why I put my faith in science is because my cell phone works. Okay.
Welcome to the party, baby. We can make some moves, yes. We can make a groove, yeah.
Okay, it legitimately works. These cameras work, which means synchronicity caught in the moment, which means quantum mechanics works.